Welcome to Work from the Inside Out, a podcast that highlights real-life stories, practical strategies, and best practices for transitioning your career from unhappiness and dissatisfaction to fulfillment, meaning, and joy. Now here is your host, career and executive coach, Tammy Gooler Loeb.
Hey everyone, I am delighted to introduce my guest today, Dr. David Charles. Dr. Charles is an accomplished educator, business strategist, and executive coach with a career spanning academia and industry. As a current faculty member at the University of Illinois and previously at Babson College, he has designed innovative courses and professional development programs that prepare students for success. In industry, he has held senior leadership roles at John Deere and CVS Health, where he led large-scale analytics and innovation initiatives that transformed business operations. Passionate about professional development, Dr. Charles has coached executives, emerging leaders, teams, and students to enhance their skills, confidence, and clarity needed to thrive in an evolving business landscape. Please join me in welcoming Dr. David Charles. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Tammy. I'm glad to be here.
Really happy to have you here. As you know, on Work from the Inside Out, we love to begin at the beginning. Tell us about your formative years and how they may or may not have informed where you are today.
Wow, that's a great question. And as I reflect on that, I think a lot about how my parents emphasized a lot of like STEM areas. So a lot of the sciences, mathematics. In fact, I remember my parents, when we would go on family trips, would quiz me on my times tables. So I was naturally bent toward things that were probably science and mathematic oriented. As I went into high school, I really enjoyed chemistry and physics and math. No shock there, huh? And so my guidance counselor said to me, perhaps you should become a chemical engineer. You're good at chemistry and math. This makes sense. So that is what I applied to colleges for, is to go into engineering and I'm a chemical engineer. And that's how it all started. For the first 2 years, that was the path. But then I started really looking into what chemical engineers actually did. And I was like, I'm not so sure that this is for me.
Wow.
Yes. So I then found myself doing electrical engineering and biomedical engineering. That really stemmed from the fact that I liked biology and I grew up with a lot of allergies. And so I had an interest in going to medical school. So I was like, okay, this is a great path. And in fact, I started working in a lab and I found a professor that was interested in supporting me and encouraging me. He had an MD and a PhD and went back to school for his MD after doing his PhD. And so it's just a fascinating journey. Very often you'll do it together.
Yeah. Interesting.
So enjoyed that.
What kind of lab were you working in? What were you doing?
Imaging. We were focused on how you can use imaging to help different health scenarios and sound waves. So one of the research studies that I worked on, we were looking at the speed at which a wavelength went through the arteries.
Oh, wow.
And so the speed at which it goes through the arteries can help you determine how tight the walls are, how stiff the walls are, so you can use it as a predictor for atherosclerosis.
Wow.
So it was a whole
That sounds like a medical school student in the making.
Yeah, and I was trying.
Yeah.
It was a path, but as we think about career journeys, I think of the sailing analogy, tacking, it's just gone back and forth. And so I learned all about that. And in parallel, I had all these friends that were getting into tech. And not tech as we think about it today. This was like internet boom. And frankly, that's where the money was, right? I ended up graduating with a degree in management information systems. And with all the electrical engineering and math courses I'd taken, I did a concentration in electrical engineering and math. So good foundation, but I also was really interested in the system side because that seemed to be where there was lots of interest.
Yeah. So the money pulled you.
we're being really vulnerable here. Yes, I saw a lot of money being thrown to friends, and I was like, all right, I need to get in on that.
And it sounded like the topics that you were studying and the work itself was engaging you as well. The sense I get is even with chemical engineering, you didn't mind the learning about it, but when you saw the path ahead, it wasn't appealing to you.
That's very true. It wasn't. Of course, the irony is I live in Houston now and I meet chemical engineers all the time.
Who are probably doing work you would never have wanted to do.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's a good life choice there. Tammy, you're absolutely correct. You initially get drawn in by what companies can offer you very early, but it manifests itself quickly of, do I like this work? Do I not like this work? Do I enjoy it? Because the tech fields in particular are areas where you have to continually want to read about, know what's happening in the industry. And for context for all the listeners, this is before the dot-com bust. So think that web browsers and email and the internet itself maybe was 5 years old in like common society, commonplace. I got my first email address probably 4 or 5 years prior to that. This is really early. And so you always had to stay abreast of what was happening and what type of things.
I can imagine there was so much excitement around it at the pace it was going. And although I would imagine it was different than, for example, some of the excitement around AI now, because I sense that in today's tech conversations, and I'm saying this like a real pedestrian, there's a blend of excitement and lots of fear. And I think there probably was then too, but from what I recall about it, there was probably more excitement.
I would say so. I think it feels different. If I reflect back on it, there are a lot of parallels and rapid change, what's possible with this new technology. Holy cow, I can use the internet to go and find out all of this information that I had a lot of difficulty to get access before. I would say now it's almost more exciting because of what's possible.
Yeah.
The technological advances that we've seen just in the last 25, 20 years is just unreal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say there's more excitement now, despite the media headlines of job loss, layoffs, and shifts. What's possible is just absolutely incredible.
So you got in before the bust. So when you finished school, I assume you went out and got a job. What did you
I
do?
ended up in consulting. So I worked in a consulting company that did software development, very specialized software development. And I got to practice all those programming skills that, they tried to teach us in school, and did that work for about a year. Then I found myself switching technologies and found myself in databases. This is back to the acceleration of change.
Yeah.
It was much easier to learn how to develop software than it was to be really good at databases. To be good at databases at the time, you needed lots of data, had lots of data, clients. So I made the conscious choice, still love the technology. All right, let's switch from software to data warehousing and large databases. I enjoyed that very much. Worked at another professional services company that was in the data warehousing space, company called Informatica. And then after a number of years, I decided to go to one of our clients in the financial services industry, ING. As a lead data warehousing architect and working on different systems and processes to support that.
And so so you switched to database warehousing work after a year. What made you decide to make that switch at that juncture? Because you said that was harder, that was more challenging, and it sounded like you were probably on a bit of a learning curve too.
Very high learning curve. So one of the key reasons was I saw that it was easier to get into software than it was to get into data warehousing. That's the first thing. Two, I learned a lot about the work, and the work being in the consulting industry is very demanding. You're making sure that your clients' needs are met, that you can meet the appropriate deadlines. So I made the switch, and part of it was an opportunity that was presented to me.
Okay.
I was very fortunate. One of my colleagues shared with me that there was a company that was growing. And it was in this space. One thing led to another. Had a couple conversations. Learned a lot about data warehousing on the fly. And one thing led to another, and it worked out.
Well, that's what we call networking. It's a great example of how, when you hear about somebody who makes a move from a position where they know what they're doing
Mhm.
and then jumps to or appears to jump to something where the learning curve is much steeper, it sounds like part of that conscious decision to make the switch was also influenced by the fact that
Yeah.
somebody had a lot of confidence in you, introduced you to a company that was growing, and there was an opportunity to learn on the job, basically, and it sounded intriguing enough. So it wasn't like you were cold calling, sending resumes out, looking for these jobs. But it was an opportunity that presented itself and it got you thinking, this could be a nice pathway.
Yes. That's you summarize it better than I could. That's exactly it. And it's interesting that you think about it and talk about it from a network perspective, because I hadn't thought about it that way in a very long time. I think about mostly post-business school and those sorts of things, but that's a really great call out that how important your network is. And that's definitely something that I'm a big believer in and has helped support me throughout my entire career.
And it's more important now more than ever, especially with the heightened instability in
Mhm.
so many companies. If people don't maintain their networks, I don't think it's as hard as people think it is,
Mhm.
but I think just keeping in touch, maintaining relationships, but also just staying alert and aware and curious about what's going on out there. And so that's why I'm staying on this first job switch for a moment, because not only did you have somebody who introduced it to you, they saw something in you,
They
but
did.
they also piqued your curiosity. You were curious enough, you were willing to take a chance on yourself.
Mhm.
Some people would have said, "Oh, I don't know anything about that stuff." Some people would have been too afraid to risk it. They'd rather stay and work their fingers to the bone in the consulting firm because it sounds like the lifestyle of the consulting firm or the work style lifestyle wasn't sitting too well with you. And so the work might have been fine, but we know that when you're new in a consulting firm, they chew you up and spit you out. And I didn't know how to put it more delicately,
Well, no,
but
there's no delicate way to put it. I talk to my students now and I say lifestyle jobs they dictate your
right,
lifestyle,
right,
right? You're really going to be focused on your work and that's going
right.
to dictate everything else around you.
And those are choices you want to make with your eyes wide open. And it sounded like somebody had gave you a door and they opened it up and you said, "All right, let's learn about database warehousing." And so then you worked with this professional services company and I guess became pretty well acquainted with ING, one of your clients,
Well,
and they snatched you up.
yes. In fact, back to the networking, I've met a number of people, actually at a number of clients, but specifically at ING, that was one of the companies. And one of the other consultants at another company was taking an in-house job and he was building his team and gave me a call and said, "Hey, we're building a team. Would this be of interest to you?" Because I was also on the road working at this professional services company, Informatica. And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, "Hey, want to get off the road? Want to go back home? That'd be great."
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it ended up happening. But again, back to your earlier thought about networking, every single role that I've had has something to do with some kind of networking, some kind of building a relationship, and then some kind of adding value.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about networking, it's always about can
Yep.
you add value first or contribute something? Because it's not a dirty word.
That's what people don't realize when they think about networking. They
Hmm.
think that they have to put on their best face and
Hmm.
have their elevator pitch nailed down. I always say,
Yeah.
nobody talks on elevators. Why do you have an elevator pitch? It's actually doesn't even have to be about you so much. You can network and learn about everybody else, learn about what they're doing, learn about their companies, and see what that sparks in you. They will ask you about you. You'll have the chance to talk about yourself, but make it more of a conversation rather than think of it as an interview. You'll get a lot more out of it. They'll get something out of it. That's part of the value added.
Yes. Yes. Being curious, going back to that word you used before, if you're just curious, then it's half the battle.
That
Just being curious, whether it's
absolutely.
looking at the backpack that they have on.
Mm-hmm.
Are they wearing a sweatshirt that you think is cool? It's literally just about being curious and then
Yeah,
just starting a conversation to learn more about them.
absolutely. And that's how people make genuine connections.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just superficial talk. You never know where the commonalities are.
Yes, it's not an ending, it's a beginning. That is their
And
slogan.
I
Yes.
love it. You were the lead data architect. And where did you go from there? How long were you there for?
About 3 years, 3.5 years. I found myself starting to think about the business decisions that were
Mm,
being made about why were we building these systems?
mm,
How is this helping the customer? How
mm.
is this helping the internal employees that are supporting the customer? And I got some advice, and the advice was go to business school. I
Ah,
was like, really? And they're like, yep, go to business school. I applied to business school, and I'm a proud graduate of the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth.
ah,
And one of the reasons why I decided to go to Tuck was because they had a Center for Digital Strategies.
mm,
What that represented for me was they saw my tech background. I wasn't just this consultant, banker, whatever that stereotype of the business school person.
yes.
Do you see me? Do you appreciate that I am bringing in this skill that maybe I don't see myself in? And you value it, and you're going to help me connect it to business skills. That's exactly what happened. One of the
Yeah.
best decisions I ever made.
It's an extraordinary program. I know many alums from there, and they all felt seen there. I think that's a really good way to put it. So after those 3 years or so at ING, you left and you went to Tuck.
I went to Tuck full time, which again, jump off a cliff, leap. I remember selling the house and the final drive up, and I remember getting to the Vermont border, and my dad was helping move things up, and it was really dark at night. He's, son, do you really want to do this? I was like, yes, Dad, we're gonna do this. But it was really great. You get a lot of exposure that you didn't know existed.
Mhm.
And if I were to say another recurring theme in my career, it's where are you getting the exposure of things you don't really know about that is not in your frame of reference, right? There
Mhm.
are probably three different buckets. There's things you don't know you don't know. There's
Mhm.
things you know you don't know. And there's
Mhm.
things you know.
I love that.
And that first bucket is most of what navigating a career is about. How are you understanding what you don't know you don't know?
Mhm.
And who in your life or in your reading or any other actions you're taking will provide exposure into what's this thing that's out there that I can now say, I know it, but I don't know it.
Right,
No, I don't know.
right.
And then you can choose, do you want to learn more about it? Or is it not important to you right now? Or is there another priority for yourself in what you're looking into? But I
Mhm.
would say that one of the overarching themes, and
Yeah.
especially for the listeners out there, think about the people and then think about who might you not know that is in an industry that you know nothing about or is doing work that you're like, I don't know what it, and it could literally be anything.
Mhm.
It could be literally from waste disposal all the way to what does it take to run a psychiatric practice or run
Mhm.
a hospital?
Mm.
Because each person has something to teach you,
Absolutely.
and each person has some nugget that will offer that could ultimately can contribute back to helping you guide your career. How do you prioritize investing and where do you learn? Because
Mhm.
everything's changing every day. And
Mhm.
so the question is, how do you prioritize and where are you going to invest in learning? Okay.
And you're tapping right into the point that I make about networking, and that is it actually comes from a quote from Dale Carnegie. Be interested, not interesting.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that is worth its weight in gold. And exactly what you were just saying, because when you learn about, even if you learn about something you know you would never do, there may be something about the way that person went about looking
Mhm.
into it or how they progressed through a particular profession that starts to spark an idea in your mind about a step you might want to take. Or it may even reaffirm for you something you definitely don't want to do, but it really grounds you in something else. What I always say is ask yourself, what do you want instead?
Yes.
Great. So take us forward from Tuck.
So after Tuck, I took the shot that most business school students do is I went into consulting. So I worked as a management consultant.
Uh-huh.
Shocker. And so I did that for 2 years, a very demanding job. The thing I don't think gets talked about enough about management consulting and strategy consulting in particular
Mm-hmm.
is how much you learn. I would say that I learned more in the 2 years in that work than probably the 5 years combined. There's just so much you're exposed to
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
mix of clients,
Mm-hmm.
the decisions that these executives are trying to make that have long-term consequences, not only for the firm, but frankly for society.
Mm-hmm.
So the firm I started out a business school at, they've now since evolved, but originally were called Altman and Landry and Company.
Mm-hmm.
And so Altman and Landry focused on telecom media and high tech.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we all realize how important telecom media and high tech are right now.
Sure.
And so decisions were being made at some of our clients that we are still seeing now. We're rewarding to have known that I've worked on some of the projects that have led to what we're enjoying right now,
Mm-hmm.
but also knowing how much work and the knowledge and the experience that goes into the foundation to be able to understand
Right.
what's actually happening in front.
And I can imagine as you see things develop, you have a little bit of behind the scenes, reflections on some of that. So you did that for 2 years, and I can imagine the lifestyle was difficult. Was
Yes.
that part of what made you decide to move on from there?
I think partly lifestyle, and this is actually pretty common coming out of business school.
Yeah.
You spend 18 to 24 months in your first role, and then you transition to something else. What I was finding myself asking is I wanted to know what happened after I left. These are usually very short engagements, so 6 weeks to 12 weeks. And I found myself wanting to implement, right?
Okay.
Like what happened after I left? We worked crazy hours. We put this beautiful PowerPoint presentation together. And then what? It reminds me of that old UPS commercial where there's two consultants and they're talking to the executives and they're like, oh yeah, you should do this, that, and the other. Insert business word jargon here. And the executives, yeah, let's go do that. Let's go do that. And the two consultants look at each other and they go, oh, we don't actually do the thing. We just propose the thing. And that really encapsulates why I made the transition. And so after doing that work, I found myself working at CVS Health.
Ah,
Yes.
okay. They seem to get a lot of Tuck alums, I recall.
Yes.
Yeah.
What really excited me about the role was they were building an analytics team in a new business area, and they were modeling it after a very successful analytical team that they had on their retail side. I was like, this allows me to combine my technical knowledge, my business knowledge, and work on it together in this new area that I don't really know much about. And so I knew something about analytics, not as much as that was probably needed. So there's a lot of learning, be curious. And I remember the executive that hired me, he sent me this book, and it was the Direct Marketing Principles book. It was this really thick book. And he said, if you read this book, you'll be fine in this job. I was like, really? And there was some very technical things about doing market tests and everything. Some things we touched on in business school that I was like, I'll never do that. Sure enough, guess what? We are.
There you are. Yeah.
But he was spot on, and read the book, and we had success in building out the team, and it grew pretty large, and we had a lot of impact, and a lot of that work is focused on delivering healthcare outcomes, right? And so one of the things I really enjoyed about that work is it was this win-win. If I did my job well and helped people adhere to their medication, that means that their employer was also saving money, and their employees were able to be more productive. And then we were also making money, right? Which is why we're in business, right? And so it's this rare win that I saw where if I can help you stay healthy and stay adherent to this medication, then everybody wins. Like everybody wins. I love the work. It was really, really fascinating to work in the pharmacy benefits management space.
And also, you were able to see the direct connection between what you were doing and where the outcomes
Oh, yeah.
were landing, which is great.
So much so that it was one of the things that I actually learned coming out of business school is that I liked seeing it happen in the market.
Yeah.
When I was working in tech pre-business school, it was behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
It was the systems, right? If something was cool, it stayed internal. Where
Mm-hmm.
I was doing something in market or directly with a customer or that directly impacted the customer, I
Mm-hmm.
got really excited.
Mm-hmm.
I remember where walking into the CVS retail store and
Mm-hmm.
seeing that red kiosk,
Yeah.
I remember when we were discussing
Ah,
those in the stores. And again, you get to see it like
right.
it happen. Or some of the different refill programs that are still working today.
Yep.
It's really cool to see it. So it's something
Yeah.
that I observed about myself
Yeah.
in what I enjoy. And I was like, oh, I need to be near the customer or working with the customer to help them.
So that was a win situation, but clearly you're not still there today.
No,
So what happened next?
I got recruited away
Ah,
to work at John Deere.
uh-huh.
It
Not a
was
pharmaceutical company.
no, not a pharmaceutical industry attacking, go across industries. The thing that got me excited about the John Deere opportunity was an opportunity for work on very high level strategy things and not
Mm.
have the operational responsibility that from leading an organization. I
Mm.
had a fairly large team and now I get to think about agriculture. And I'll admit, right, we were talking earlier about do you want to take the leap or not? And I was like, John Deere, like tractors and farm country, is that going to be really for me? Here's the interesting thing. Back to that curiosity.
Yeah.
I called a few of my classmates at Tuck that worked at John Deere.
Mm-hmm.
All of them said the same thing. It is a fabulous company and opportunity. Outside of knowing the brand, I would have never thought about working at
Yeah.
John Deere.
Yeah.
And two, I would have never thought such a technical and exciting opportunity would have existed. Of course, as I moved over to John Deere, I actually learned a lot more about how technologically advanced the company is. There's a lot of tech that people would be surprised by or even advanced now. So, for example, there are more lines of code that go into running a combine that runs a spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that fact may be a little outdated now. I don't have the current information, but at one point, that was
Right.
the case.
So interesting. How long were you at John Deere for?
7 years
Ah, okay.
in 3 different roles.
Oh,
One of the things I appreciated about working at John Deere is I got to see a lot of different things. Now, in my first role, while it was based in the IT department, I did have enterprise reach.
mm,
And I was able to work on analytics strategy for the enterprise, but with my role in IT. Worked on that for 2 years, and that evolved into them inviting me to take over as head of people analytics.
oh,
Now, I got the analytics part, but I'd never really worked in HR. Learning,
yeah,
it was a high learning curve
yeah.
in an HR department. And I spent 4 years working on that. A very fascinating time. You get to see some of the behind the scenes of, okay, so how does this people management thing really, what are the processes really in place that really support an organization? What needs to be built?
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
Right.
Yep.
And during that time was when I started my coaching training.
Uh,
One of the things that came out of that, I got to meet a number of people who were internal coaches, and a senior leader supported me going and get training. So the training process, if I recall correctly, is about a year. So there was obviously training that they teach you how to do the work,
Right.
and there was practical hours,
That's
right, to
right.
make sure that once you complete this, you actually are able to do this. So in
Exactly.
addition to my day job, I was also working as an executive coach
Ah,
for the company.
nice. Oh,
Yes.
great.
Yes. So that's how it all started. And one of the things I observed at the time, and I continued to tell friends, was I found that was actually one of the things I enjoyed more than the work I was doing.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah. I really enjoyed working with different leaders, mostly targeted with individual contributors, managers, maybe early director level,
Mm,
or at least early on. And it was just so fascinating how much you learn while I'm there to actually help them. Back to that curiosity thing,
yeah.
there's so much I learned from them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so again, that don't know, you don't know.
Right.
I learned different parts of the business just by working with them. I learned about new processes that existed that I didn't know that support the business operations. I was obviously helping them. And it gave me a much broader exposure of like what's happening. I would have never thought that doing this, some might call it a night job,
Hmm.
right? This coaching would have actually helped my career because I was actually learning more about how the company operated.
Yeah. It's amazing when people interview me to hire me as a coach. They'll say, "Do you have any experience in this and this?" And I say, "I did not work as a leader or a professional in that industry. However, I've had
Mhm.
multiple clients in those industries. I've learned how the sausage is made there.
Mhm.
I've got a lot of information insights. And after 25 plus years doing this work, I've
Mhm.
touched a lot of industries. I know exactly what you're saying. You really do learn a lot about how things are done in different parts of a business. And then if you start working with people across different industries, you realize, a lot of all the nuances of the way things are done in different places too.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
great.
what led me to actually my next role. So
Well,
I
now that
then,
was 2 years and 4 years. So you were there for 7.
yep,
So you had one more role at John
I had
Deere?
one more role. I went and worked in our Innovation and Technology Center
Oh, wow.
on the campus of the University of Illinois. And my role was two parts. One, I had an innovation team that was doing work at the John Deere Technology Innovation Center. And then the second part of my role was thinking about how to engage with the university in a different way where we could create additional value by having a presence there. So we were already being very
Oh.
successful in working with students. We had full-time staff in that office, partnering with different professors, the entire innovation ecosystem at the University of Illinois Research Park.
Mhm.
My director challenged me. He's like, hey, give this some more thought. And that's when my life changed.
Mm.
And how it changed is I felt 10 years younger being around the students. I didn't have to wear one of these stuffy suits all the time. I had to actually up my t-shirt game and my sneaker game,
I
right?
love it.
And it was energizing being around the students and around the campus and what was happening. So I took that role. It's a lot of work on campus. I moved actually to campus.
That was
And,
the Champaign
yep, in
Urbana?
Champaign. Yep. Yeah, it's about 2.5 hours south of Chicago and about 40 minutes roughly from the Indiana border. And I only know that because at the time, the Yingling beer that I actually got introduced to early in my consulting career to a
Uh-huh.
project in the Philadelphia area, you couldn't get it in Illinois. And so I had to drive into Indiana to get it. So I knew the drive
Oh, I thought you were
from,
gonna
from
say it was
Champaign.
40 minutes to the Bloomington airport or something. So that's how you knew it. No, you drove
Yeah,
for the beer. Okay.
cross over the border, then drive right.
So the question is, you went over the border to get the right beer. Did you bring enough back to share with your friends at the Innovation Center? You said that you felt like you were 10 years younger. You were like a man on campus at that point. I would imagine it would have helped with how you were fulfilling your engagement with the folks at the Innovation Center.
Yeah. So we had students from all different levels, right? Undergrad, bachelor's, PhDs. We worked with professors. And of course, I shared it.
Oh,
Um,
good.
One of the things, though, that I thought was really fascinating is in ingratiating myself into the community. So
Yeah.
while there were opportunities for me to share beer, one of the things that happened was a number of people I knew throughout my career had some connections to the University of Illinois. They were giving me advice on where to go, or is this place still open, or that sort of thing. I found myself spending more time, integrating myself into the community and learn
Ah.
what it had to offer.
Uh-huh.
And it's a wonderful college community. I meet people all over the place who are University of Illinois alum. It's the
Hmm.
craziest thing.
It's a big school, right?
Yes, very much.
So you had this dual role with John Deere and were doing a great job of integrating,
Mhm.
half of your role at the Innovation Center, and then you had this other half of your role. How did that play out for you, and how long were you playing both sides? It wasn't really sides, I know, but
Mhm.
how did that go forward for you?
One, I had building upon my analytics responsibilities was to use analytics in an innovation context. Our office was very successful in experimenting and bringing things to life, right? Making people who couldn't really see what was possible or this idea that was stuck in our head, how do you make it tangible?
Yeah.
That was probably one of the biggest things that I learned at the Innovation Lab was you can talk about a lot of ideas, but
Mm-hmm.
faster you can make it tangible so people can touch, feel, experience, have an emotion
Mm.
around an idea,
Mm.
the better off you're going to be in getting feedback from them about what's possible. And then if it makes business sense, then you can move it forward. So
Mm-hmm.
that was one part of my role.
Mm-hmm.
And the other was engagement with the university. Part of it was sharing with the students, hey, we're actually out in Research Park. You should come and spend some time with us. Some of it was overcoming preconceived notions about the company, where when people think of John Deere and they're just thinking agriculture or only tractors, or maybe they were a backwards company. And I
Sure.
say, I still own stock. But there was an education process that was necessary both with faculty and students, that
Mm-hmm.
how many lines of code were in our combines, like what satellite networks. We were doing autonomous vehicles years before Google. I want to say it was 10 years, but making it real for them, like, how do I make it tangible?
Yeah.
One of the things that I started doing is inviting students to our office so they could see some of the autonomous products that we have. At the time, John Deere had an autonomous lawnmower, and we would use
Wow.
it to cut the lawn. And
Oh
so
my,
I would say, students, like, if you don't believe me, come check it out.
that's really cool.
And so it was that kind of engagement about driving awareness. What kind of opportunities exist on campus? What is there about this ecosystem being in a college community that could add value not only to our work in that office, but then also be of value back to the company as a whole?
Yeah.
That's the second thing I was challenged with to think about. And how do we do that?
Mm-hmm. So there was an education process breaking through assumptions that people
Mhm.
had. So it wasn't just about telling people things to dispel their assumptions, but also really engaging in genuine relationships with people.
Yes. Many of these relationships I still hold to this day. And I spend time with these friends that I've made
Mm.
over the years when I return back to campus.
Yeah.
It really is a wonderful community.
Yeah.
Hands down, wonderful community.
Yeah. So how much longer did you stay with John Deere at that point?
Yeah. So I left in 2020, starting in the full height of COVID.
Mm.
I had an opportunity to join an early stage startup. Startup was called Talent. I was excited about it because we were focusing on HR advisory work and HR technology, and we were trying to solve the problem of this alignment between organizational need
Mm-hmm.
and individual aspiration. All things that I cared about with doing a lot of recruiting throughout my career.
Mm-hmm.
And now with the launching point of working on a college campus of one of the top engineering schools in the country, I thought it was really exciting. And I decided to move to Houston. My colleagues were in Houston. I thought it was the best move to increase the likelihoods for success for the company. I joined as our chief digital and innovation officer, and we were trying to figure out the right opportunity, right product market fit, and then identify clients that we could start working with to grow it.
Mm-hmm.
Did that for about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
For those thinking about startups,
Yeah.
early stage startup life is not for the faint of heart. There were definitely days that were exciting. We got very creative in
Mm.
thinking about what was possible. Those are things that I remember enjoying very much about it.
Mm-hmm.
The other side that I didn't anticipate was the emotional fortitude that it requires
Mm-hmm.
to push through an entrepreneurial venture. In my experience, you need to have a belief and conviction in your idea, product, or service in a way that I didn't fully imagine. It takes a different level of motivation and fortitude to do, particularly early stage. When you're bootstrapping a company, you're going to probably hear more no than yes.
Mhm.
We heard a lot of, but if you could only do, or come see us when it's a little bit more developed, or there was a lot of no.
Mm-hmm.
Emotionally, I just hadn't prepared myself for that in the
Mm.
resilience that is required
Mm.
in an entrepreneurial venture.
Mm-hmm.
Although it didn't work out the way I'd hoped, it was some of the best experience that I've ever had to start with an idea and create something and partner with people and take it soup to nuts, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we have this idea. Let's prototype something. Let's get it in
Yeah.
front of people. Let's make phone calls. Let's see if we can set up sales calls, taking that feedback, synthesizing it, and turning it around. So there's a lot of excitement that
Yeah.
comes with it. But there is the emotional toll. I didn't anticipate that startup life. I look back on it and I am better for the experience, both from a business and can get stuff done standpoint,
Uh-huh.
and just from a I know what not to do next time.
Uh-huh.
That school of hard knocks and that hard earned wisdom.
Yeah. And you also went from being part of a very large, well-established
Mhm.
company to a very small organization with
Yeah.
no policies, no systems, no nothing, right?
Uh,
It's just a very stark contrast. So where did you go from there?
I appreciate you saying that because the other thing I think that goes along with it is your identity. Hey, as a John Deere employee, a company that's been around almost 200 years, that in my experience, it is a brand unlike any other brand.
Mm-hmm.
To what is this thing talent that you do? What is this company? Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're a startup. Oh, you're an entrepreneur. There's a lot of assumptions that go along with that. So your identity in some ways is caught up in that life as well.
Now, everyone knows what a lawnmower is
Right.
or a tractor, right? When you say,
Yeah.
I'm the chief of digital and innovation, so, okay, that's great. Good luck.
Right. Nice inflated title. Good luck for
Sa-
you. Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, it set me up for my next iteration. So in parallel, and life pro tip, going to school full time and working full time on a startup, whew, that's a lot. I was working on my doctorate in parallel.
Oh,
Yes.
during
So
COVID on top of this, we're talking
yeah.
about, right? So
Mhm.
you got COVID, you're working for an early stage startup, and you're
Mhm.
going for your doctorate all at the same
Yep.
time.
Yep.
Hmm.
And it's yeah, I look back and like, how did I do that?
Right.
But I think if I reflect back on all of the movements,
Yeah.
you get set up for the right reason. So I was thinking about what to do next in my
Sure.
career. And I had been guest lecturing at different parts of the campus, and I had worked as an adjunct professor at Babson before. And I decided to put my name in the hat for a faculty position at the University of Illinois.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
Because you were in Houston. Wanted to make
Correct.
sure.
Yep. It happens all the time. Yes. So
Yeah.
I literally moved from Urbana-Champaign to Houston, now
Right.
living in Houston,
But doing
and
your
now
doctorate
applying
in
for a
Illinois.
job. Oh, forgive me. I was working on my doctorate at the University of Southern California.
Okay.
Yes, on the West Coast,
Why
which
not?
helped in timing because I could take classes later on in the evening. That's how that helped. But
That makes a lot of sense,
right
actually.
on.
Yeah.
I was trying to think through what do I want to do next? And I put my name in for a full-time faculty role at the School of Information Sciences. And I
Mm.
thought it was a great fit because they value a multidisciplinary approach. And I'm pretty multidisciplinary, right?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I could find a home here. So long story short, I applied, I got the job. So now I am a teaching assistant professor at the School of Information Sciences at the University of Illinois. By the way, it is the #1 school of information sciences in the country, and we do amazing work. We like to say we're at the intersection of people, technology, and information. And that is a wonderful way to summarize my career, is that I worked at the center of people, technology, and information. I have been there for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I teach a wide variety of classes in leadership and competitive intelligence, some things that I did in my professional career, some things that are related to my doctoral training. My doctorate is in organizational change and leadership. One of the
Right.
things that I studied was the challenges that leaders face who run corporate innovation labs.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was fascinated by this balance of working with the mothership, if you will, but
Mm-hmm.
yet creating a context and environment and a culture that fostered ideas and innovation and thinking differently.
Mm-hmm.
and not just thinking differently, but actually realizing how that thinking differently can go and create something of value to your organization.
It just makes me think about what you were talking about when you were with John Deere
Hmm.
and taking those, ideas, those intangible ideas and bringing them to life into something tangible
Hmm.
with the innovation center.
Yes. Reflecting back on it and thinking about where I am now, every step, every experience, every setback that I've had has been preparing me for this moment. But you
Yeah.
can only get that insight by looking backwards, right? The challenges that you're facing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I'm most grateful for. It's the opportunities that I allowed myself to be open to. And
Yes.
so when I think about careers and I work with coaching clients and students, I encourage them to just really be curious and connect with people. If I had been told 20, 25 years ago that I'd be doing this work, I would have literally fell over laughing. Like there was no way I could imagine what I'm doing today.
Do you recall what you imagined you'd be doing today?
I wanted to be a doctor. I grew up with a lot of allergies and other medical stuff. I was always at the doctors. And so that's what I saw. And I wanted to be a cardiothoracic surgeon. I know that's specific, but I love the idea of helping people in their heart and
Sure.
saving lives. It was cool as a 10-year-old, 15-year-old.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought about. I'm helping people strengthen their leadership in themselves and be more self-aware and see how that impacts their connections in their lives.
Right.
And then help using that to work toward their goals.
Yeah.
So it's funny how it all comes full circle in
Yeah.
your careers in your life.
I love the way you're talking about that because those are the things, of course, I'm very interested in. But I love the fact that it's within the information sciences realm
Mhm.
because that's an area that needs this so much. Because I've seen this in so many organizations where the emphasis of the work is on the technology, the data, very concrete things. And you've got the human element,
Mhm.
which is not as concrete. And in order to create the right kind of organizational culture, climate, move an organization forward, you've got to have, like you said, that beautiful intersection of people, technology, and information. It's music to my ears.
It's a great place to.
It is. So, David, is there anything else in terms of what you're up to these days? Because you're up to a lot that we haven't covered.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So while I have my faculty appointment and I invest a lot of time supporting my students, our school, our university, I continue to do
Right.
coaching work with outside and organizational clients, helping them with innovation initiatives,
Mm-hmm.
with individuals looking to grow in different leadership levels,
Mm-hmm.
wide variety of work at that intersection.
Mm.
Like a lot of my clients wanting to get clarity around what that looks like. So that's also what I'm doing.
That's fantastic. So, what would be the best way for people to follow your work and be in contact if they want to be?
You can find me at LinkedIn at
Okay.
David S. Charles. My website is drdavidscharles.com, or you can subscribe to my Substack.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Excellent. I think there's a lot of people who are going to be interested in learning more. You said something a little while ago about people who are going forward in their careers to stay curious, be curious and connect with people.
Mhm.
I always wrap up the interview with what would be a key piece of advice that you would give someone who's thinking about what's next. And I was thinking, oh, he already answered the question. But I'm wondering if you want to add to that in any
Sure.
way. I just love that. Be curious and connect with people.
So don't wait. Everyone in front of you has something to teach you. And the question is, are you listening?
Mm,
So whether it's that person that cuts you off on the road,
mm,
or it's someone that you meet when you're out shopping, what have you, there's something to teach you, right? Something there. And so I would be curious if you're considering a career switch or new careers, be curious about people that are already doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Connect with them on LinkedIn, go to conferences, be curious about how they got there, their
Mm-hmm.
journey. Because I've noticed two things happen. There's a sense of urgency. One, it's going to lay the foundation for whatever that next step is.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, guarantee you're going to learn something that you didn't know that is going to shape you in a way that may surprise you. It could be a new career path, a new hobby, or it could be you enjoy talking to them and you want to learn more about what they're doing.
Yeah. I'm going to leave it at that. You just spoke to everything that I say all the time. I think if people would heed those words, they would be so much better off. I am grateful to have learned more about your journey and the value that you're bringing to people in all that you're doing. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely, Tammy. I'm glad to do it. And it's been very helpful also for me to reflect on this as well. Thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure. Thanks for sticking around to the end of my interview with David Charles. What is your key takeaway from our conversation? If you are interested in any of the resources mentioned in today's podcast, you can find them in the show notes on my website at tammygoolerloeb.com/podcast. Just look for episode 294. And while you're there, you can also subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes. Did you know that ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts can help this podcast reach more people? Please help me to inspire more people to move their careers in meaningful directions by clicking on the Apple Podcasts button and then leave an honest rating and brief review. Are you anticipating your next professional move? Check out my award-winning book, Work from the Inside Out: Break Through 9 Common Obstacles and Design a Career That Fulfills You. It's available through my website, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, or through your local library. You can also help sustain this podcast by buying me a cup of coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TammyGL. Since this podcast is self-funded, your support is acknowledged and appreciated. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, it's never too late or too impossible to increase your sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and other meaningful activities. Let me know how it's going for you. I'd love to hear from you. Bye for now.